Hello, listeners. This is Dan Riley for Sports Talk on Power Talk Internet Radio. We're about a week away from the Pro Football Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. It's time to celebrate a new season and an opportunity for perennial cellar dwellers like Detroit, the Cardinals, and Cleveland to dream of winning a Lombardi trophy. That said, teams like Atlanta have a chance to make up for postseason failures. Unfortunately here, I'm going to have to explain why that just isn't going to happen for the Falcons. This is not to say the Falcons don't have a chance to make a run. They do. Having a quarterback like Matt Ryan hand off to Devontae Freeman or pass to Julio Jones isn't a bad offense. That said, the history books suggest the Falcons are going to have an off year. This offseason, ownership fired the Falcons' defensive coordinator after the defense's epic collapse in the Super Bowl. As talented as that defense may be, bringing in a new defensive philosophy doesn't usually bode well for that side of the ball that inaugural season. That defense will have to study a new playbook as thick as a phone book, with terminology they're not used to. That should worry Falcons fans as far as their team's chances. For that matter, aside from Julio Jones, Matt Ryan really has no one else to pass the ball to. Every play, Julio faces double coverage, requiring Matt to throw somewhere else. This offense faces a very real possibility of becoming one-dimensional and fast. I don't recall the Falcons drafting a receiver to give Ryan another option this April. Devontae Freeman will have to carry the load. Teams are focused on stopping the pass nowadays, and Freeman really cannot expect to break off a 70-yard run every time he takes a handoff. Every other back will have to step up when Devontae's pulled out, and the Falcons can only hope their overall rushing statistics add up to 5 yards a carry. I don't see that happening. Meanwhile, blowing the biggest lead in Super Bowl history is probably going to be mentally damaging beyond anything we've seen before. Remember the Giants' 24-point collapse against San Francisco? This collapse on Super Bowl Sunday blows that out of the water. Well, that and the Oilers' blown lead against the Bills back in 1993. The Falcons have had to carry that weight all offseason, and I wouldn't be surprised if that mental block carries over into this season. The Bills of the early 90s were an anomaly. A team in the free agency era that went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost them all. We'll never see that again. True, but that's not even the point I'm trying to make. That team never recovered from its first loss in the Super Bowl. Teams aren't doing anything revolutionary on offense nowadays like they were, and if they do, like Miami's Wildcat formation, teams catch up. The Panthers took a little over a decade to get back after losing that Super Bowl to New England. The Cardinals didn't at all the year after they lost Super Bowl 43. I could go on for hours. People talk about the Super Bowl hangover for a reason. Teams that played in the Super Bowl have more game tape to study on them than anybody else. Their rosters are rated for talent and coaches disappear. No team's guaranteed to stay competitive, not even the Falcons and Patriots. Most of the NFL's dynasties came to be prior to free agency for a reason. You're lucky to get to, let alone win a Super Bowl, let alone 4. No guarantee you'll ever get back, and that's especially true for the Falcons, who are well known for coming up short in the playoffs. I just don't see how they get back to the Super Bowl this year. Playoffs? Maybe. A big maybe. It's like when the Ravens won the Super Bowl in 2000. They disappeared for the next decade. That's often how it plays out. Heck, the Ravens and Niners didn't get back the year after they played each other in the Super Bowl a few years ago. That's an indication of how impossible it is to stay competitive without a little luck. With as big a disaster as that Super Bowl was, it's a higher climb to get to the Super Bowl this year for Atlanta than it was in the first place. If anything, I see better chances for Carolina. Last year's Falcons are yesterday's news, and they'll stay that way. You can bank on that. This is Daniel Riley for Sports Talk on Power Talk Internet Radio saying so long, and I hope you all tune in again next week.